Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, Executive Editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with Dave's Faves. And today I'm going to be talking about Saint-Saëns, the Organ Symphony. Now, you may recall we have already encountered the Organ Symphony coupled to the Bizet Symphony in C on that Decca Eloquence recording. And in that case, it was the Edo de Vart San Francisco Saint-Saëns Organ Symphony, which is fabulous, coupled with the Haitink Bizet Symphony in C, which is fabulous. But as I said, you're going to wind up with duplication as you go through life in the world of classical music, especially collecting things on CD because they have a long playing time and they often consist of several or more than one LP contents stuck or rearranged. But I have my personal favorite, Saint-Saëns Symphony No. 3, and it's not going to surprise any of you. It's Charles Munch and the Boston Symphony. Now, it comes coupled a couple of different ways. Don't ask me why they do that. That just makes life more complicated, too. You can get this remastered one that has the Saint-Saëns Organ Symphony and La Mer and Ibert's Escale, which is really wonderful. These are fine performances, although there are better versions of La Mer out there, but the Ibert is great, and the Saint-Saëns is the reference recording. It always has been, actually. Then there's this one, which I kind of like better, because you get the Saint-Saëns Organ Symphony and the Poulenc Organ Concerto, the Concerto for Organ, Strings, and Timpani, and Franck's Le Chasseur Maudit. That, for me, is sort of a more fun collection, and it's more consistently wonderful, and it swings and roundabouts. And the sound is like not quite remastered yet, but it doesn't bother me. It still sounds wonderful. Now, why is this such a great Saint-Saëns Organ Symphony? Well, first of all, you got the Boston Symphony. Second of all, you got Munch, who is just fantastic in that kind of music. Thirdly, you have Symphony Hall with the Symphony Hall organ. In this case, it's played by Eberj Zamkochian, but it's one of the great concert hall organs in the world, in one of the great concert halls acoustically in the world. So this is one of the few recordings of the Saint-Saëns Organ Symphony where you have the piece played in a real concert hall with a real concert hall organ recorded in real time. And boy, does that make a difference. Even today, you seldom hear it that way. And even when they do get like an organ and an orchestra in the same room at the same time, first of all, if it's a church, the sound is going to be terrible, most likely. And second of all, even if it's in a concert hall, it's not going to sound as good as it did in Boston. So sonically, it's an unbeatable performance. It really is. And performance-wise, it's simply stunning. It's passionate and urgent and brilliant and amazing, and that's why it's so wonderful. If you don't know the work, that's the performance you got to get. Charles Munch and the Boston Symphony. It's that simple. Now, with that having been said, I want to talk a little bit, just for a moment, about a peculiarity of the symphony that's always fascinated me. It's the beginning of the second movement. Now, you may realize the Saint-Saëns Organ Symphony actually has 4 movements, but they're organized in 2 parts. The first and second movement are connected. It's the Allegro and the Adagio. And then the Scherzo and Finale are connected. And the only pause is between these 2 parts. There's something that always amazed me about the beginning of part 2. That's the scherzo. The scherzo is in 6/8 time, and that has amazing consequences for your feeling of the rhythm. No 2 performances get it exactly the same. It's not a question of right or wrong, I think. It's just a question of how you feel the rhythm. Let me show you something. I want to show you something. I've been fascinated by this for the longest period of time because, like I said, no 2 performances sound the same in the way this thing comes out. So here is, hang on one second here. There we go. Beginning of movement 2 on page 71. See this? Can you see that? There it is. Okay, there you go. That's the opening. It's in 6/8 time. The opening is actually a gloss on the opening of Beethoven's Fifth. They're both in C minor. I don't know if you've ever noticed that. Beethoven's Fifth, of course, is da 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 dum ba da da dum ba da da dum, and this is da 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 dum ba da 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 dum ba da 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 dum. It's Beethoven's Fifth, kind of, sort of. Anyway, which Saint-Saëns knew very well, of course, and admired enormously. So here this is, right? So now the opening of this. It's not going to do any good to stare at it, but that's what it looks like. The opening of it is da-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da-dum with the timpani, ba-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-da, like that, with the accents on the da-da-da-da-bum, ba-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-da. But the actual rhythm is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and ba-da-da-da-dum. That's when that comes in. Okay, so what that da-da-da-da thing is technically called an upbeat. An upbeat means an unaccented beat. And the downbeat is where the accent is. Da-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-dum. That's the way you hear it. That's the way you hear the rhythm. And if Saint-Saëns had actually begun the movement on the beat, on the downbeat, it wouldn't feel like da-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-dum. What you would hear is da-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-dum. Do you hear the difference? It's about strong beats and weak beats in 6/8 time, and it doesn't make any difference, where the composer actually writes the accents and whatnot. If you hear the rhythm, you're going to hear the difference. The thing is this: that motive always occurs on an upbeat. It's always on a weak beat. It's before the first note of the measure. So you should always hear da-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-dum, but you don't. You don't. It depends. It depends when it comes around. Even though it's always written the same way, there are times when you feel it as though it's a downbeat. For example, when the woodwinds take it over, the woodwinds have a solo. It's going and then the woodwinds come in, chugga chugga chung, chugga chugga chung, chugga chugga chung, like that. It always sounds when the woodwinds have it that they are playing on downbeats. And I think it has something to do with the way the woodwinds articulate the rhythm. You see, strings are going to go chugga chugga chung, chugga chugga chung, chugga chugga chung, like this. But woodwinds, they have to tongue it, and when you tongue it, you get more evenness in each beat. You don't hear the downbeats as easily as you do when the strings do it. So instead of da-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-dum, you hear chugga chugga chum, chugga chugga chum, chugga chugga chum, like that. It fascinates me. At different performances, it always comes out differently. And since I know you own multiple performances, you're going to want to listen to this. Just listen to it and see if you could figure out where the strong and weak beats are, and listen to how it changes, and realize that most of the time Saint-Saëns writes it exactly the same way. Sometimes he puts an accent on the downbeat, sometimes he doesn't, which means that those preceding 4 quick notes might turn out to have more emphasis than the actual downbeat will. I don't know if some conductors may pick that up, some conductors may not pick it up. It just blows my mind every time I hear it. And that's just me. It's one of those fascinating things about rhythm, the difference between the notated rhythm and the notated accents and the actual underlying rhythm, which has its own strong and weak beats that you feel in your gut as the music is playing. What does this have to do with anything? Probably nothing. But I just love Charles Munch and the Boston Symphony and Saint-Saëns Organ Symphony. However you get it, just get it. So keep on listening, friends. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care.